Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Good morning and welcome back to Dollars and Cents. I'm Darren Jacobs, a senior financial advisor with one of the largest insurers in the Caribbean, and I'm here to guide you through smart financial decisions that could help you protect your wealth and boost your bottom line. Now, today is a very special episode for me because I have on set here a guest with me who, in a little while you'll see who I'm talking about. He is someone who, when I initially came into the insurance industry, was very opinionated about my decision to leave my career as an electrical engineer and come into the field of financial planning. And 7 years forward now, he is one of my clients, someone who would have changed his perspective as it relates to the overall idea of insurance, understanding insurance and understanding what it could do and how it could benefit him. So this conversation will be one for the persons who never believed in insurance, persons who are skeptics, and what does it look like when does it change your mind or your perspective shifts a little bit. So I want to welcome Dirk Jacobs, my actual brother. Welcome, Dirk. Good. So let me ask you this, right? What was your initial skepticism as it relates to insurance overall?
It does seem like insurance is a hustle. Mm-hmm. The agent who would approach me in my early 20s,
right,
come to me and tell me about life insurance and that. And at 20, 21, 22, that's important to me.
Yeah.
Right? So, and how the agent, at a young age, you're always hearing that the young agents have to hustle to make the money. So anybody who trying to hustle me, I feel like you trying to make money off of me. So it has been a little skeptical.
Right.
So it's not that important to me at that point in time, so I just stay away from it. So
is it that because at a young age, so based on what you're saying, right, they're saying at a young age, you didn't see the need for it at that point in time?
Yes, because at 22, 21, I feel I had the peak of my testosterone level, right? And somebody come in and say, hey, what about life insurance and this and that? And it's like, how that benefited me now and today, that not benefited me today. I don't need to look so far down in the future yet. I still young, I still vibrant, I now start to work. I look into get car, I look into lime, I look into party, so I don't want to take that money and put it somewhere that benefited me down the road.
So is it that if the agent would have spoken to you as it relates to saving and making your money work for you in terms of putting aside some money so that they could grow for you in the long run, would that have been something that you would have been interested in?
No.
Why not?
The long run, too long down the road.
All right. So I understand the long run, too long down the road. So you don't believe in saving or putting aside money for the future?
So I saving money in my account.
Right.
What's the difference between me saving money in my account and giving somebody else to save it for me in their account?
Okay. So, all right. So you're saying this boils down to the area of understanding, or the person who having a conversation with you being not only just a salesperson, but an expert in this space.
Right. And it also has to do with my inability to understand the benefits to me.
Good. And this is exactly what I want to get at. The root cause of the problem was misunderstanding or lack of information.
Lack of information.
Right, lack of information.
And immaturity.
And immaturity,
yes.
So I would agree with you on that, in that aspect, because there are a lot of younger persons who are ignorant to the fact of what the benefits of financial planning could do for them in their life, and how starting at an early age could really help them further down. Because I'm sure that if it is you had put aside, let's say give or take, a couple $100, right, a month, from then to now, what's the age now?
42.
42, right? So between then to now, that is 20 years, give or take, right? You would have had a significant pool of money there that you could say, well, hey, I could use this money to do X, Y, and Z, or whatever the case is, correct?
Yeah.
All right, good. Now, while I agree with you that there are a lot of agents who hustle, and that is in any industry. It's not just about in the insurance industry. In any industry, when some people now start, based on how they are trained on or based on their perspective, they would use it as a hustle, basically, right? But that's not the case with everybody.
But let me ask something.
Go ahead.
Young insurance agents who now come into the industry, how they get paid?
Everything is, so insurance is commission-based.
Right. So now, again, me as a client knowing that, you just come in basically to get paid from me.
Not necessarily. So let me put it this way. So as a young person, I would understand the argument where they're just saying life insurance in particular mightn't really be the best fit for you at that point in time, right?
Right.
But what about something like critical illness insurance?
At 21, I'm not studying that.
You know, that is the problem. Because I'm sure you would have purchased plenty barbecue, plenty curry, right? You into food,
Yeah.
right? I'm sure it had some point when people come and approach you to be like, hey, we need to do a fundraiser if this can help us cook for this event. Yes or no?
Yes.
Right. Now, why does it think that these persons would have been in that position?
Because they're incapable of helping themselves.
And you see, the thing about insurance, right, is about putting the strategies or the things in place while it is healthy, because at the point in time it is you get sick, it's too late. It's kind of like driving a car. You can't put on your seatbelt after getting the accident. You put on the seatbelt when you get in the car, right? So planning from a young age is something that a lot of young people do see the need in. And yes, I would agree sometimes it does be the inability or the lack of skill for a new agent, the lack of training from a new agent in identifying and highlighting the needs of a younger person to be able to make it make sense for them, all right? Now, you said that, right? So now fast forward a couple years, what made you decided to take insurance at the point in time that you did?
Support from my brother. And then when I get into it, then I realize how important it is, right? So like I will tell my daughter now, she's 17, going UE. I will start a program for you, right? I will start a portfolio for you and take it, pay it, as long as you're going to school. And you continue it, whether it be a pension plan. If I start a pension plan for you now at 17, you're going to go down the road. But it has come down to me now as parents have to learn from their mistakes and teach your children or implement it for the children. So where I didn't know younger and I was like, no, insurance is a scheme or a scam or a fraud or whatever. Now that I know better, I had to make sure my daughter don't make the same mistakes as me, so that when she reach probably 45, she could retire, right? So,
and you see, I like that you make that statement there, because it shows the shift in terms of not only parenting styles but information. Because now with programs like this here and programs like what it is I do online and the content that I create online, it's bridging the gap of lack of information, the lack of knowledge, the lack of understanding as to how these things could actually benefit you when you start from an early age. Because you starting this for your daughter at her young age there now, you starting a program for her now. By the time she reaches your age here, and you give her the start, and when she starts, look, she continues paying it. The amount of money based on time, the compounding over time, that will be a significant amount of capital that she would have at that point at that age in her life. So I'm glad that you have that perspective shift. Now, the next question I want to ask you, why it is you think that most people don't see it that way, or people who still have families do believe in putting things aside for the family?
People feel invincible sometimes, like nothing will happen to me. So if you tell yourself nothing will happen, we'll never put anything in place in the event that something happens. And again, to me, is lack of information too. How the information is put forward, you have to like diversify the information for it to make sense to everybody. Even though it's the same thing you're selling to everybody, it has to make sense to other people a different way that will make sense to some. So I guess it's information and ignorance on people's part.
I would agree with that because, like, when I have now, the conversation I would have with you now, at your age, somebody married with children would be completely different to somebody who is unmarried with children, unmarried and don't have any kids. Let me say so. That's understanding different client needs, right? So a young person in the early 20s, their needs will be completely different to somebody who in the mid 30s, right? Who's not married and don't have any kids, as opposed to somebody who in their 40s, married with children, because the needs are different. And the persons who dependent on them the need would vary based on those different circumstances. Now, let me pivot a little bit into something like critical illness insurance, right? And just bringing it back to that. I remember you said that people doesn't believe or they believe that they're invincible, right? What does be the determining factor what is the turning point that would change that viewpoint?
When something happened to you, when you make it into the hospital, or I'm not knocking the public sector, but when you have to spend time in the public sector and you realize, hey, I need to put something in place because I can't deal with that. I can go sick and wait however long to get attended to. I need to put something in place that when I'm sick, I could go somewhere and get attended to and don't have to wait for that long period of time or get specialist treatment, right? And we know that costs money. And we know is either you pay for it in private, which costs money, or you go in the public sector and you wait however long. So you will try to bypass the public sector and go to the private. And you have to have some kind of financial insurance to help you with that.
So basically that gives you a peace of mind.
Yeah.
And that peace of mind is something that is not something that you can quantify really when it is you're in good health.
Right. Like my daughter had scoliosis surgery, right? And it costs a lot, even with assistance, right? So I went to my insurance at the time and I told them, and they paid their portion up front. So it was a big help for me financially, because if I had to pay everything out of pocket, it would break my back. Yeah. Right? So it helps, but again, people doesn't see that way until something happens.
They don't understand. And they don't see, and that is really why it is I like to have these kind of conversations, because plenty of people doesn't see the need. And they doesn't understand it until it's too late. And sometimes when it's too late, you can't really do nothing. It's only, now you have to resort to crowdfunding, you have to resort to borrowing money from people, and then you're putting yourself in more stress, you're putting yourself in debt, you're putting yourself in more stress about seeing about the illness of your loved one, stress about also seeing about repaying the money that you borrow, and then now your overall standard of living will be adjusted because you have to repay this money here. Now, not saying that it's a magic pill and it is the be-all end-all, but it's something that you need to put aside or have the coverage, so when that time comes, you're already be in a position like that. So that is, so we talk about the education process, we talk about the turning point, and we talk about a lot of times with people where they would have a first experience, right? Now, you're a married person with children, right? Why is it, or if it is, let me say, God forbid, something happened to you today, right? How you think this insurance or this life insurance policy that you have would benefit your family?
When I took the life insurance policy, it was to give me the assurance that if I close my eye today or tomorrow, my family will not be in financial stress, right? So I took it out with the hopes or with the goal that when I die, they're all right. I don't want for them to feel they don't go through the emotional pain that I got, but not financial pain too. So I took out the policy based on that, right? I had an insurance agent who would have explained to me in detail as to what benefits they will have. So I was comfortable with it.
Who's the insurance agent again?
I can't remember.
Shameless plug. And you know, the funny thing about it, right, is that you were one of my most difficult clients, but I appreciated the fact that you asked all the pertinent questions. You were very skeptical, and it was one of the hardest persons out of all of my clients who I would have had to, who I'd have to show the need or help understand the need.
So for me to buy into something, I had to understand it fully, not partially, fully. So I will always have questions, and depending on how you answer my question, then I would know if I'm going into it or not.
Right. So clearly I did a good job in terms of explaining it to you, because as somebody coming from, and the reason that I like that is because somebody who coming from a place of not understanding how these things work and me having to break it down for you, that means that I would have had to put in a lot of time and energy and effort into studying and making sure that I understand how this would benefit you in the long run, and for it to really make sense for you to the point where if it is and you like this man like to argue, you like to quarrel, right? But I had to know that if it is we had to have this conversation, I'd have to break it down on each specific detail. So any area that you come and try to debate me on, I'll have a credible response so that you will feel comfortable in moving forward with this, right? Now, why is it the thing that talking about retirement planning here, right? Shifting to retirement planning. How it is you see the retirement plan that a company offers, is that enough for you to retire comfortably?
I can't see. I don't know. Because...
Not talking about your company in particular.
Yeah.
I'm talking about a person who's working for a company on the whole.
I guess it depends on what people put in place for themselves as well, right? So not being dependent fully on a pension plan from a company, right? Because at the end of the day, if I leave or I am fired from this company today, what happens to the pension plan? So you can't depend on that fully. I would say that these are the kind of things that you should have separate, especially at a young age. At the later stages in your life, you might have to stick with the company you're with, or the plan that you're on with the company you're with. But if you start young and you do it on your own, maybe it might be better.
So, taking that a little bit further, if it is, when it is you had the conversation with the agent, when it is you were 21 or 22, right? And they had a conversation with you about retirement planning at that point in time. What did they, or what should have that agent said that would have changed your perspective into seeing the importance of it at that point in time?
I don't think they could do anything for me because, well, they were young too. So it's a matter of you're watching somebody as your peer, trying to tell you about your future 20, 30 years from now. Maybe if someone more mature and older had approached me, who was at that age, who could tell me about the experience they had growing up to reach that age, maybe it would have made an effect on me. But that's just me, right? So as a peer, it's like you telling me about down the road, I wouldn't take it serious.
Yeah, but with that same argument, right? This particular peer that you would have had, they would have been trained in the area, so they would have learned more or understood more than you would have. So, because the reality is, a new agent who would have received training in terms of life insurance, retirement planning, critical and health insurance knows more than the average person.
Yes.
At that point in time.
Yes.
So, go ahead.
We're looking at a 20-year-old, right? 21-year-old person. Listening to another 21-year-old person tell them about the future next 20 years. It don't resonate that if somebody 20 years old are talking to you about it, who lived the experience already.
So you're saying that our agent shouldn't really be that young in the business?
No, I am saying that an agent that young in the business, it would be difficult for them to reach out to their peers. Most people who buy insurance from their peers is some kind of relationship they have with the person, and they will say, all right, because we're good, I will take the insurance. And that is where it does start off, right? And it will be beneficial. But that is where it does basically start, because at the end of the day, is experience people looking for. Even as an older person who looking for a portfolio with an insurance, they ain't good with a younger agent.
That is not true. No. Here, I would agree and I would disagree at the same time, right? Because for me, that's a problem that I had, because I would have came into the industry at about 27 or 28 or so, 28. But that is me coming from having a career in the engineering field prior, right? Now, I realized that was one of the same arguments that you would have had with me. Why it is I could come and tell you as a young person, as a younger person than you, about insurance. That time I already would have studied and understood more about insurance and retirement plan than you would have, right? Now, that is part of the reason, taking that into consideration, that is part of the reason why it is, I believe in continuous development as an advisor, right? So I would have done a bunch of different courses in the insurance field. I would have done my designation as FSCP, that is Financial Services Certified Professional, right? It's basically like a degree in insurance. Then I would have done, I'm currently doing CHFC, which is Chartered Financial Consultant, right? That's a designation that a lot of top advisors in the world usually holds, right? But very few advisors in Trinidad hold it, because I think it's only right now about 2 or 3 people who have it. Okay. And I think part of the reason is because advisors, they just do see the need in continuous development, which I agree is a real problem with a lot of advisors, not really seeing the need of professional development. Because if, as you rightfully said, if it is I am to come and advise you on your finances, your money, I have to be very knowledgeable about it, because this is not no game you're playing with here. This is real life. This is real money. This is something that can affect yourself and your family moving forward. So I believe and I agree with what it is saying, but in the same breath, sometimes with a new advisor, they would have the backing of their manager, who would have been in the business for a particular period of time, have a bunch of other relevant designations as well too. So they would have their manager support. So not because somebody's young, that means they should not be taken seriously and they should not be seen as competent.
Right. Again, we're looking at 20-year-olds. Right. So with all the knowledge that you have, you could read out to me all your certifications at, let's say, 23. But I am looking at you as a young person like me, right? Now, when you look at the older people in the insurance industry, how they dress, how they carry themselves, you see professionalism, right? So when you see the professionalism now, you listen more attentively. The younger people, they didn't grow to that stage yet. The younger agents didn't grow to that stage yet. So it does be more difficult for them to capture the younger audience. So I believe that is why as young insurance agents, it does always target people who you know already, who you have a relationship already with, because it's difficult for you to get somebody you don't know, or you don't have no relation with at all.
I would agree with what you're saying there, and that's kind of why it is I would have implemented or curated my practice the way I would have done, because me doing all the designations and doing all the certifications that I have and having it posted on my wall, it gives the person, the client, a certain level of security and a sense of comfort, knowing that I may be a young agent, but I'm a very technical person. I'm learned, right? And also to being the youngest person in my company with the title of Senior Financial Advisor is something that you does mostly see older agents with. So all of these things here, I would say, for any young agents who are looking at this is something that you really need to take into consideration, because having clients see you as competent is very important, and that could mean the difference between they taking your advice versus someone else's. You were going to say something?
No.
Okay. So talking about, let's say looking at your daughter, right, at her age, and the other parents who looking on who would have children in that same age bracket, what would be some little tips or advice that you would give them?
Start them on a policy now and start paying it for them. Because as they start to work, they wouldn't see it as important, right? But if you catch them coming out of school or while in school and you start it for them, and you give them the portfolio to read out, show them what it entails, how it will benefit them down the road, they may grasp the concept. Most likely they will grasp the concept of how it will be beneficial. And if it don't, use your parental power to ensure that they maintain it as long as you're able to, because it will benefit them. I wish that I had started something earlier, now that I know, right? But most I could do now is teach my children so that when they reach this age, they know better.
Well, they say hindsight is always 20/20, and it's better late than never. And I would also say that it's very good that to hear from a person who have young children right now, in the late teens, coming up into the 20s. I realize that there's a shift in perspective now from your generation to mine to the Gen Zs. There's a shift in perspective because the parents like yourself, you all changing the narrative. So they won't be doomed or not necessarily make the same mistakes as the people who in retirement right now. Yeah. And that's part of the reason why it is I am so determined to share information about retirement planning, because we see it all the time. We see a lot of people who at older age in their retirement, and they depend on everybody else. They depend on family, they depend on friends, they depend on the children, because they didn't really plan to put things in place. See those same people always complaining about the price of bread raising, NIS and paying, NIS not raising is not enough. All these different things.
But aside from that, right? Even when you get an increase in your income, when the cost of living, somehow the cost of living does increase with the increase. Time, yeah. So it does balance off the increase that you get. Yeah. So your increase really don't mean nothing.
It don't really mean nothing.
Yeah, it don't mean nothing.
Because when as rightfully say, when your salary increase, cost of living go up, so everything is balance off. And go ahead.
I have a question. So, what is the best policy that a parent should look at for the teenage children?
That's a very good question. The best policy a parent should look at for the teenage child is getting a policy for themselves first. Okay. Right? Because the parent is the one who will be paying the policy. The child is still dependent on the parent. Right. So the parent needs to have their house in order first before you say about the child. The parent needs to have all of the risk management strategies in place: life insurance, critical illness, retirement planning. If they don't, they would be financially dependent on their child when their child reaches of age, right? So you can't build the house from the roof come down. You have to build from the foundation go up. Right. So the parent has their life insurance and their different risk management insurance policies in place first. Then you would look at different options for the child. So it could either be, I would say, starting them from young, start them off with a critical illness policy, right? Because we've seen in the past plenty of young people get diagnosed with all kind of unforeseen things, right? So you have critical illness, so that covering you for all the major illnesses. Once they have that covered, it doesn't necessarily to be a big policy, something to start off with. Once you have that covered, then, now in reality, you're supposed to actually be saving for your child when they're now born, before they're born, right? So you're supposed to be planning for your child's future when it is you're planning to make your child, right? You do education planning for them from at that point in time. So you plan for them from then. But if it is you didn't, fine. So as an early teen, is based on your income and your available income, and then having a conversation with a skilled advisor could help you craft it, because it's not really a one-size-fits-all type of scenario, right? But I really do appreciate you coming on and having this conversation with me, and I think this would help a lot of people in your perspective and persons who would have had that same mindset. So hopefully your perspective could have changed theirs. And I am hoping that the viewers would really have a lot of takeaways from this episode, because this is the whole point of this show is to have real conversations with real people to show you that having increasing the financial literacy would really help you make better decisions and really help increase your wealth and protect your family based on all of the different unforeseens in life. So I'd like to thank you for tuning into this episode, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next one.
WESN